Hey up lads and lasses, Fletch here from Ultimate Halo, and I get asked a lot, Fletch, what do you think to X weapon? What do you think to Y weapon? And to be honest with you, I don't have time to exactly make videos about each and every single weapon in Halo Infinite, but I do want to make a bit of a high level tier list for you all to enjoy. And also I've recently hit 100,000 subscribers, as I'm sure a lot of you can see. So I'm soon doing a Q&A video. So if you do want to ask any questions about just me, my channel, my hobbies, what I like to do, my opinions on something, let me know in the comments and it should hopefully feature in next week's video.
Ultimate Halo.
Alright, so the first weapon I want to cover is the plasma pistol because it's a classic and it's something I do have opinions on, and personally, I'm going to drag it out here, I do not rate this weapon. I actually think it's probably one of the worst weapons I've experienced in Halo Infinite so far. It's not terrible, but I just feel like its homing could do with a hell of a lot more tuning. And I feel like, I don't know, compared to let's say Halo 4, 5, it just feels really difficult to use. But I find there is a lot of adjustments with quite a lot of the weapons in Halo Infinite compared to let's say Halo 5. But maybe it's just me getting used to it, but that's how I feel at this current moment in time. Alright, next up we will stick with the theme of pistols and the Sidekick. Where does this one go? Because in reality it's a lot different from a lot of the pistols we've had in the past, but if anything I would say it's more like Halo 2's pistol. It's quite rapid fire, but it's also not incredibly strong and ranged like the Halo 5 Magnum. Now don't get me wrong, I like Halo 5's Magnum, but I think it was one of the key contributors, as well as other things, as to why that game was so sweaty. But I think the name of this weapon is exactly what it does on the tin. It's a sidekick, so it's supposed to be secondary to whatever you're using as your primary. So if you strip somebody's shields, let's say with a Ravanger or an assault rifle, you've got no bullets left in that and you need to quickly swap to just get that last pop on the head. The sidekick is absolutely perfect for that, but at the same time it's not perfect. It's pretty cool. I'm not going to give it an S because I think that's probably a little bit too generous, so we're going to have an A. And okay, this is a tough one because I mean it, I absolutely love the sniper drill in Halo Infinite. I'm like really sweaty at it, and even though I'm not the best person at it, I'd like to think I can still get a pretty damn good score. I mean, look at what's going on screen right now. I absolutely smashed this score. But unfortunately, when it comes to actual application in an online multiplayer match, I really do find this thing difficult to use. And this is just against bots, which don't really jump. I know they strafe quite a lot. But to me, I think it could do with either just making the reticle a little bit larger, because I do feel like it is quite small, or alternatively, this is kind of my thought process, maybe just add a little bit more of like bullet magnetism. And I know that's quite a controversial take, but I don't want it to be too hard, but I also don't want it to be too easy. And I think just a tiny little bit more magnetism would put it in the high ground. So purely because of that, it's going to go B. But if it was a little bit easier to use, I'd go as an A. Okay, so the Pulse Carbine. Now, Ascend Hyperion really did do a great video on this recently, and I was going to make a very similar video. However, he kind of knocked it out of the park, to be honest with you, and I think he pretty much hit everything on their head and everything what I would say and more about the weapon. So I would suggest going to watch Ascend Hyperion's weapon, because I think this weapon was initially massively underappreciated, and its role as a precision weapon is kind of not diminished, but it's not really supposed to be a precision weapon in the traditional sense, like the battle rifle, let's say, or the DMR. It's kind of got its own role, and I've personally said it's a kind of compromise and a kind of a replacement for the plasma rifle. So the Pulse Carbine is actually more of a viable weapon than the plasma rifle, I believe, and I think it's a good replacement. I'm a really big fan of it. I didn't like it at first, but once I came to understand its mechanics and when I should use it, I really came to love it. And I don't know if this is controversial at all, but I'm going to give it an A. Alright, so the Banished Skewer is such an awesome weapon, but at the same time, much like the sniper really, it is incredibly difficult to use. Now, it's been made quite clear that this is a weapon that should be used against vehicles. We've seen it in the gameplay trailer, and honestly, I really just can't wait to test that for the first time. But as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to fighting against other people or bots, this thing was really, really tough. And I'm not sure if that was just me being bad or I'm just missing a trick with it. But I did certainly think that it could be a little bit easier, but at the same time, it's a one-hit kill. So should this thing be easy? Probably not. So I think I want to give it a chance, and I also want to see a couple of changes made to it. A lot of people, myself included, have suggested that if you hit a Spartan that's next to a wall, the skewer pins it to the wall. It doesn't just like drop down and drop dead. You actually get pinned to it. That would be such an awesome level to the mechanics and just the visual feedback you get from this thing. So for now, much like the sniper rifle, I'm going to give it a B. It's cool, but I think it just needs a couple of little cool features adding, but that may go up as soon as I see some combat against vehicles. Okay, we're going to go into another classic right now, and this is the Needler. My god, I really do not like the Needler in this game, and it's not because it's like terrible or anything, but it's just one of those weapons in the Halo franchise that is really difficult to balance, and personally I don't think it's as good as previous Halo games. I find the tracking is really inconsistent. I don't know whether I should just track my enemy or lead my shots a little bit, and Halo Reach did give you some visual feedback. It gave a little circle as to this is where your enemy is going, this is where you should fire, much like the Saber mission in space as well. It did it there as well, but I just can't get the hang of this weapon. It's just another Covenant weapon where I'm like, I get the gun, but I think I'm either taking a little time to get used to it or it's just not tracking right. So I know this one's a fine line, because I know if you buff the Needler too much, it's just going to become ridiculous, kind of like how it was in Halo 5. So a nice middle ground would be appreciated. So it's going to be a C from me. Now this one is like my absolute darling, and there's been a lot of debate about the assault rifle online. What role should it play from a range perspective? And honestly, I am in absolute love with the Halo Infinite Assault Rifle. Not just from a gameplay perspective either, but from an aesthetic perspective. This thing looks so sick, and honestly, it's my favourite design of any Halo Assault Rifle. Behind that is Halo 5's. So I really like it. Is it going to go A, B, S? Which one? So honestly, I think it is spot on. I think it's perfect. I don't like to say things are perfect and spot on, and it's clearly subjective because I know plenty of you will disagree, but I just feel like the way it feels, the range is perfect, and I feel like the Sidekick complements the weapon very well. I do think that the battle rifle will beat it, and we'll tell you what, we'll go straight into the battle rifle now. And the thing is, the battle rifle will clearly outskill an opponent with an assault rifle. But I think there are some people out there who are thinking that, well, the assault rifle is a bit of a utility from range. But personally, that's where I sit. So if anybody asks what I think of the assault rifle and the battle rifle, I think they are both spot on in Halo Infinite, both by design and by purpose. Okay, so I haven't really hated on too many weapons in this video just yet, and of course we haven't seen all the weapons in action just yet, but one weapon I'm really not a fan of is the gravity hammer, and you know what, it's not terrible, it serves its function. I think it plays relatively okay into the sandbox, but there are some things that I think are severely missing. So I think for a start, it should be giving gravity effects. It doesn't give me any lift if I was to smash myself up into the air. Now you can argue that the repulsor, which is an equipment piece, is going to replace that need, but at the same time, I miss like in Halo 3 when I can send stuff flying on myself or an enemy. It's just a really useful and fun part of Halo's mechanics, and I think 343 are really missing a trick with this one. So unfortunately, this one's going to go in C as well, because it's not exactly a terrible weapon. I just don't think it's where it needs to be in terms of the Halo sandbox at this point. Okay, we're getting there. So one weapon I love is the Bulldog shotgun, and a lot of people seem to have this preconception that this weapon's supposed to replace the original classic shotgun, and hopefully we do see that return at some point. But really, the more time I spend with this thing, the more happy I become with it, because personally I love the classic shotgun, and I wasn't too keen at first. When we first saw this in the 2020 gameplay reveal trailer, I was a little bit hesitant, but now that I've spent plenty of time with it, I would actually say this gun is more of a replacement for the SMG. So I think it kind of merges the utility and the functions of the SMG and the classic shotgun all into one. It's got a rapid fire, it's also a shotgun, it's meant for short range, it's not too powerful. I think it fills all those roles perfectly, and it negates any weapons sort of bleeding into each other. Honestly, this gets an S from me. The Heatwave, now visually as well, this is another one of these weapons where I wasn't too sure if I liked it or not, but now that I've spent a bit more time with it and also just played the hell with it, I think it is an amazing weapon. Now, I love the dual sort of controls you get with it, either firing horizontal or vertically. I think that leaves it open for lots of interesting gameplay scenarios, and it does take a good level of skill to use. You can't just one-shot people across the map with it. You've really got to sort of track or really predict where your enemies are going. So for that purpose, I want to give it an S. Maybe I haven't spent enough time with it or understand its functions too much to give it an S. So I'm going to give it an A. It is a fantastic weapon, and I think as I see more of its role come out and more fleshed out, I might even just pump that up to an S because I do love this gun. Ravanger, another weapon that I was never too sure on, to be honest, but I would solidly give this one a B. And the reason for this is, look, it's a really good weapon, but I haven't seen its full utilities yet, and really, I would maybe make the full beam burst a bit more powerful, because when I'm spraying an area, I understand the utility that it's making an area cut off, so an enemy player doesn't want to walk through where I've just sprayed on the ground. But I'd just maybe like to see that being a little bit more powerful, because in my experience, it hasn't really shredded too many people, or maybe I'm just bad with it, who knows, but let me know your thoughts. Spanker rocket launcher. Look, who can have any complaints with that? It's back to the original design. It does what it does. It's a rocket launcher. Let's just slap it on air. And the VK Commando. It's a weapon that I've gone back and forth with and tried to decide, do I love it or do I hate it? And you know what? I do see its role in the sandbox. I almost see it as a replacement to the DMR. Of course, it's not single fire and it's automatic, but this thing takes skill. It really does, and you got to really tap fire it to make sure that you're getting the best shots. If you're using aim down sights, it's actually quite inaccurate. The recoil on this thing is pretty crazy. So I think it fits in pretty well. I don't think it's incredible by any means, but it's definitely a worthy addition to Halo Sandbox. So with all that in mind, I would go for a B. So this was a really tough list because there are lots of things I feel like are really difficult to know how good they are just yet. Things such as the skewer, because I don't know how it's going to play against vehicles just yet, and that might entirely change my opinion on it. It might go from A to an S. Who knows? Who knows how this is going to pan out? But I do want you to let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget your Q&A questions in the comments as well. Once again, my name is Jack Fletcher, and I will see you next time on the one and the only Ultimate Halo.
Subscribe now to Ultimate Halo for more unfriggin' believable Halo content.